Hey boys and girls, today we're going to look at lesson 15.3 in our math book. It's on page 829, and we're going to be talking more about halves and fourths like we did yesterday. We talked about having half is cutting something into two equal pieces. Each piece is 1/2. And then we talked about our fourths, or also known as quarters, is when we take that same whole and we cut it into 4 equal shares. And each piece is 1/4 or 1/4. Okay, so we're just going to do some more work with those today. So it's asking, which is larger, 1/2 or 1/4 of the same sandwich? So we're going to take this first sandwich, we're going to divide it into halves. That means we're going to split it in half. So 2 equal shares, you can cut it this way or this way, it doesn't matter. So there I split it into halves. And here I'm going to divide this one into fourths. So I do that, and then I'm going to go this way too. So 4 equal shares. And they're asking, which one is larger? This half or a fourth? Which piece is bigger? The half, definitely, right? So then it says to circle the sandwich that has larger equal shares. So we throw a circle around that. Onto the back on page 830, it's showing you some pizzas. It says these pizzas are the same size. They cut this pizza into 4 equal shares, so into fourths or quarters, and they cut this pizza into 2 equal shares or halves. The pizza with fourths has smaller shares because you're sharing it with 4 different people. Your piece is smaller. There's the half, right? So the pizza with halves has fewer shares. So there's less pieces, but the pieces are bigger, okay? It says to circle the shape that has more equal shares. Put an X on the shape that has larger equal shares. So they did that for number 1, so let's look at number 2. I need to figure out which shape has more equal shares. Well, this one has 1, 2, and this one has 1, 2, 3, 4. This one has more pieces. And then we want to put an X on the shape that has the larger pieces. So this one might have more, but this one, the pieces are bigger. Same thing over here. Which one has more pieces? And which one has larger pieces? Okay, and I want you to do the same thing for that one. Circle the one that has the most pieces, and then put an X on the one where the pieces are the biggest. On page 831, draw a line to divide the shape in half. So that's an easy direction. You can do that. Shade 1/4 of this shape. So you're going to color in 1/4, 1/4, one piece of that shape. Number 7, draw lines in the orange square to make smaller equal shares than are in the blue square. Well, this blue square is broken up into halves. So which one? We need to make smaller equal shares. So we don't want to just split it into halves. We want to split it into something smaller, like our quarters or fourths. Number 8, Joan cuts a rectangle into 2 equal shares. Then she cuts each share in half. So here's a rectangle. She cuts it into 2 equal shares. Then she cuts those in half. How many equal shares are there now? And what are they called? You can explain it in this box. Oops, skip the page. On page 832, Steve wants to cut a pan of cornbread into equal shares. So there's his cornbread. Will the shares be larger if he cuts it into halves or fourths? So think about it. Here's cutting it in half. Or if he cut it into 4 pieces. So the more pieces of something, if you have something and you break it into pieces, the more pieces that you break it into, the smaller the pieces are getting, right? Think of sharing with your friends. So you're going to have to write which one would have the larger shares. Number 10, Burke and Alicia each have a sheet of paper. Both sheets are the same size. Burke uses 1/2 of his sheet. Alicia uses 2/4 of her sheet. Alicia says they used equal amounts of paper. Is she correct? Explain your answer. So you can draw. What I would do here is I would draw the 2 pieces of paper. And then I would cut one of them. So Burke uses 1/2. So I'd split 1 in half. Alicia uses 2/4. So the other one is cut into fourths. And here we have 1/2 and 2/4. So shade in 1/2, shade in 2 of the pieces of the 4, and explain your answer right there. Number 11, Joey has 2 circles of the same size. He cuts one into halves and the other into fourths. Which words describe how the halves compare to the fourths? So are the halves smaller and there's more of them? Are the halves smaller and there's fewer of them? Are the halves larger and have more of them? Or are the halves larger and has fewer of them? So that's just playing with words there. Which way is the correct way to say it? On page 833, they give another look. They're showing you the rectangles, excuse me, that are the same size. And this one's cut into 2 equal shares. This one's cut into 4. Okay, so here, compare the 2 shapes. Draw lines where you need to. Tell how many equal shares and circle smaller or larger and more or fewer. So here they want you to do quarters. So are the equal shares smaller than or larger than halves? They're smaller. But there's more of them. There's 4 pieces you can share with. And then when you do the same thing here, but this time with halves. You're going to split this in half. And then compare. Are the pieces of this half, are they smaller or larger? Are there more of them or fewer? So you're comparing them. And on to the back, number 2, Ginny and Martha each have a pizza. Their pizzas are the same size. Ginny cuts her pizzas into fourths. Martha cuts her pizza into halves. Who has more slices? Who has larger slices? So if it's helpful there, you can draw a picture, or you might already just get it and know. Number 3, divide this square into halves. Then shade 1/2 of the square. So you're going to split this in half and color half of it. Number 4, Lucas divides a circle into 2 equal shares. Then he divides each share in half. How many equal shares are there now? What are they called? So for this one, I would go ahead and draw my picture. I'd draw a circle. And I'd cut it into 2 equal shares. Then I'd cut that in half again. And then you can answer the question. Mary is designing a sign. She wants 1/2 of the sign to be red, 1/4 of it to be blue, and 1/4 of it to be yellow. So which one would her sign be? So you need to look at these 4 choices and see, all right, which one has half red and a 1/4 blue and 1/4 yellow. So you're going to just bubble in the correct answer there. Okay? So that seems pretty straightforward. It's just knowing the difference between cutting something in half, sharing it with 2 friends, or sharing it with 4. The more people you share it with, the smaller your pieces get. But you get more pieces, but they're just smaller. So hopefully you have no problem with that. If you do have any questions, just let me know and I'll help you.